Welcome to the Fast Track of Innovation, the DataDriven Podcast. Here, data isn't just numbers, it's your superpower, sparking stories of success from bites to breakthroughs. Dive deep into insights from the DataDriven Conference, where data heroes assemble. Ready to supercharge your data journey? Strap in, it's time to get data-driven. Sponsored by Reltio. Reltio's AI-powered data unification and management cloud capabilities encompasses entity resolution, multi-domain SaaS, master data management or MDM, and 360 data products. Reltio helps enterprises transform poor quality data from disparate sources into unified, trusted, and interoperable data. All right, welcome to another Data-Driven Podcast. I'm Chris Stetzel, and today we have special guest, Abhi Visuvasam. Abhi, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks, Chris, and thanks for getting my name right.
Yeah, you're welcome, and I discussed that a little bit beforehand. You are the head of enterprise architecture at Reltio, yeah?
Yeah, head of enterprise architecture, data analytics, and data management, and it's an all-encompassing job in terms of trying to coordinate and unify all our various systems that we have here and all our various activities related to that.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because today's kind of title, if you will, is Reltio and Reltio, driving innovation with connected data. So that sounds cool, huh?
Yeah, everybody should be doing it, and glad to hear that we're also doing it, right? So we're a good example of what everybody should be.
Let's dive deep into that. I love that. Before we do, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do at Reltio. I know you kind of gave us a high level, but if you want to go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, just a little bit. And I've been at the enterprise architecture space for about 25 years, with 30 years of my career, and very much into various aspects of enterprise architecture, from infrastructure, integration, and then application architecture, of course, and all of that put together, including now, of course, data management architecture. So that's been my space that I've been operating in. I'm based out of Tampa, Florida. I've been in Reltio for about 4.5 years now, almost. Yeah. And it's been a good journey. And I've had a lot of experience in various aspects of Reltio's business, from working with the customer side, right, in front and center with them, as well as working now on the back end of things, making sure we have all our integrations and all our enterprise architecture together in such a way that we can give them the best customer experience.
Yeah, it's funny is I used to solely work with enterprise architecture leaders at big companies for 9 years at a previous role. And I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit more about this. And I'm interested in what this Reltio and Reltio is and how did it come about?
Yes, it's not a new thing. Reltio and Reltio has been around for a little while. It wasn't called or branded, if you will, Reltio and Reltio.
Yeah.
It was just Reltio 360 being used by Reltians, and we call ourselves Reltians. I think people know that. And
some people do, some people don't.
Some people don't. Yeah, it sounds like an alien species, but yeah, we are all Reltians, and we're using Reltio 360 for various uses. And one of the things that happens a lot is you invest a lot of money and time and effort into developing or building out your data architecture. And we did that at Reltio. We did that at one point, invested a lot of time and effort behind it and got it going. And then at some point, a lot of business priorities came in, COVID hit, and you remember all the shift to business priorities at that point. Everybody was pivoting to whatever they needed to do to sustain the business, react to customers' needs, and all those different things. Because of that, a little bit of focus was shifted away from the Reltio's implementation in Reltio and on to other parts of the business, not unlike any other company, just very normal. But when that happened, the data in Reltio started to slowly become stale. It started to slow down a little bit because there was no care and feeding of this platform. There was no constant attention to it, making sure it's staying its vitality and feeding and care and feeding of it. Because of that, a lot of different business areas started to create their own source of truth because they didn't need to operate. They still needed to marketing, still needed to do what marketing does. Sales needed to do what sales does, and customer support and customer success. Everybody needs to do what they need to do, but they needed to have some data to work with. And since they didn't necessarily have confidence in the central source, they started to make their own source of data. And this started to happen in a very slow, organic way. And what happens ultimately, everybody has their own silo of data that they start operating. So we went from a unified data source, and with some of these business changes, we ended up with going back to where we were before we started with that, which is having some data silos and everybody having their own little pocket of data that they operated with. That I think it was the inspiration for us to say, or yeah, I don't know if it's an inspiration, but that was the problem that we wanted
Yeah.
to solve ultimately. And to solve it, the answer was obvious. That is, hey, let's get Reltio 360 back online. Let's start feeding it, caring for it. Let's start re-engineering it to our current use case, current business needs,
Yeah.
and let's building it back up. So Reltio on Reltio is not anything new. It's been around, but this version and this iteration of Reltio on Reltio is definitely cutting edge, if you will.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of focus internally for sure. And you talked a little bit about why Reltio is a little bit motivated to do this. And can you talk a little bit about maybe the key business objectives or the outcomes that you want to get? You slightly touched on it, but are there any specific things that you say, okay, we're doing these things because of we want to get this and that out of it?
Yeah. And that's a good point because one of the things that we work a lot with our customers is to tie Reltio or tie any kind of data product to outcome, business outcome.
Yeah.
Connect the dots there. It's great to have great data, but what are you going to do with it? Is the answer. It's a question people always ask. For us, I think we started to notice the impact of not having unified data on customer experience.
Mhm.
That's ultimately what we wanted to begin with in terms of solving. And that is, how can we in customer success, who knows the customer, know the customer the same way customer support knows the customer, the
Yeah.
same way marketing knows the customer, or same way professional services knows the customer, or anybody else in the business knows the customer. And so it had to be this unified understanding of that customer. Do they all have the same data point? Are they all looking at it the same way? So from a business outcomes point of view, we wanted our customer experience to improve. That was top of mind.
Yeah.
And then
Customer
after that,
experience is the key.
customer experience is the key, ultimately.
Yeah.
But underneath that layer of customer experience, there's a lot of business operational processes.
Yeah.
that-
Yeah.
And for those to be running optimally and running in a cohesive manner, you've got to build a lot of automation. You've got to build a lot of efficiency there. And for that, you need data, and you need data that everybody agrees on, everybody understands and want to connect on. If you peel every layer back, we basically saw customer experience as the top thing that we wanted to do. And so that's what we anchored on. But beneath that, every layer of a business that you would want to improve, we needed this data to be unified to be able to.
Yeah. I want to dive a little bit more into that and get off a little bit, but something you and I had a discussion about, I don't know, a few months ago was around that true 360 view of the customer. As you mentioned, one view is a support view, another view is a customer success view, another view is maybe even marketing view. And so there's these, in a way, a disconnected view of what the customer is doing, what they're not doing. People are in their silos and they just know this one thing. Oh, we got 5, 10, 20 support tickets. But now what I think we're trying to do is improve on that to where now we can look at a customer profile and say, hey, in this, they're doing this. And in this department, they're doing this. In this department, they're doing that. And now you get this whole view of what the customer looks like. And now I can be like, now you can make better decisions. Maybe you can start looking at potential churn or potential upsell, cross sells, those kinds of things within an account. Is that kind of accurate or?
Absolutely. I'll just give you a very quick example. I had a meeting today with folks from marketing, and they wanted to know who are our customers, who are our largest customers in a specific industry using specific product capabilities. Simple question, it sounds like it, right?
Yeah.
But it requires data points from various parts of the business to be connected together and to be unified, to be able to give it to the marketing individual and say, hey, here you go, in a very beautifully visualized way, or even any kind of way, even raw data. How do we get that together? And that ability to do that now is better than it was ever in Reltio. And even prior to our previous implementation, because now we have so many more data sources now feeding in and unifying ability. So the beauty of it is, if this marketing individual was to go look at this dashboard to know, oh, here's the customer. This is the customer status, which is their health is green, or maybe their health is yellow. And why is their health yellow? Oh, it's because they have so many outstanding tickets potentially that need to be resolved, and we need to go solve those. And so because of that, maybe they're not the right person to go ask certainly for reference or something else to do.
Yeah. Customer marketing. So it touches a lot of different aspects of the organization. You mentioned that Reltio had a previous deployment and now we're expanding. Can you talk a little bit about the domains maybe the data domains that were initially deployed, and then how are you expanding that, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so it's interesting because the original implementation of Reltio was really around one main domain, one big domain. I say one big domain, one key domain, and that was account. So it's a B2B implementation, and the implementation was focused around each one was an organization. So every customer that we had was considered an organization. And a lot of the data we had was just piled underneath that organization, just a lot of that. And what happened was the people that used the data, who would go and either look at it, data stewards would go look at it, or people that wanted to run reports and consume that data would have to essentially know what they're looking for and then go find it in there. But it was all that, all unified, it was all there. So it was functioning to a certain level and certain capacity. What we've done now is we've started to break out these domains, break out this data into various domains. And now we've started to build out multiple domains in our platform. And so we're built around the B2B velocity pack and domain right now, which is account and organization. But we also have underneath the contact 360 view we're building out. We've already built that actually. And we're already building out what's called a relationship 360. That is our relationship with that particular customer in the form of what products have they bought from us and and how they had that. Then, because there are some customers that have bought multiple iterations of Reltio for various use cases, we want to know each one of those because a lot of them have different contacts and different sponsors and folks that are associated with it. And then from there, we've gone ahead and we're also building out now the supplier 360. And we're also building out the partner 360. There's just so many domains, and being that it's a multi-domain MDM, it makes total sense to build out this.
Seems like a lot, but that's pretty awesome.
Made for this, Chris. Yeah.
So as you look at those integrations that comes from different areas, like the data sources, such as Marketo, LMS, Gainsight, Zendesk, Jira, I don't know, AHA, et cetera.
Yeah.
How did you prioritize which ones you're going to go after first?
So first of all, we obviously spent a little bit of time building out that roadmap of what we had. Now, but we also had, remember, the original Reltio 360 tenant that we had. So we had something to look at that was built around certain integrations that it had built into it. And then we wanted to pivot and create this brand new custom build, even more robust Reltio environment that we wanted to build. So one of the things we noticed was the previous one had a couple of key integrations in it that provided most of that data that most of Reltio is anchored in on, and that it comes out of our CRM system, Salesforce. So Salesforce became the originator, if you will, of most of the data that starts to enter into Reltio. Most of the data that enters Reltio, period, comes in through Salesforce in many ways. CRM, just the way it works in most companies, including SaaS companies like us, CRM is going to be the originator of a lot of data that you're going to bring into any other part of your organization. So we started with Salesforce and wanted to pull in all of that data because that's the foundation ultimately of all the rest of the data that we could continue to enrich on. And from there, we just started to build it out based on business need. We said, okay, now that we've got the Salesforce data in there, what is the next most important thing to impact customer experience? Going back to that. And the next biggest thing was Gainsight, which was part of our customer success organization.
Yeah. So it's already integrated too into Salesforce, right? Gainsight stuff. So it's probably a little bit easier now.
No, it's not integrated for what it is integrated with Salesforce for its own thing. But it's not putting anything in Salesforce. So what happened?
Got it.
Yeah. So it still has its own data in its own little pocket, if you will, that we needed to extract and put it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. That's interesting. Tell me a little bit about how has the deployment of Reltio connected data platform impacted the way like we work as employees, and is it creating different kind of cross collaboration through different departments? I'm very interested in that. How you think of that.
Yeah, we spent some time on one of the town halls talking about this because it's one of those things where you really can't just Reltio is not for the agent to implement and walk away from it. It has the unified data that needs to be provided to other folks to consume and use and engage with. But how do they engage with this data? Do you just go into Reltio 360 and log in and start looking at the data? You can. That's one use case to do. The way it's impacting people is data that they could never access. For example, in Salesforce, they couldn't see data from another system that was quite far away. They would have to build a custom integration to the system, and they'd have to build it and maintain that custom integration to that system. Now that data from that system, that remote system, maybe it's NetSuite or something else, is now fed into Reltio 360. It's available in a central source. Sorry about the thumbs up, but I think that's pretty apropos. Yeah. So that data is now available in Reltio 360, which is very closely coupled with Salesforce. So now we give them the ability, we give a system on one side of Reltio access to data that they normally would not have had access to. And how does that help them? For example, you can be in Salesforce and you can potentially look up a customer help if you wanted to know. So now you can not only have from Gainsight, so not only can you have all your opportunities and all your leads and all the accounts you have in Salesforce, you can also have the customer help there if you wanted it.
Yeah.
And that access to that is available through Reltio 360 without having to build the bespoke connections, one-to-one, point-to-point connections all over the place. But to get to your point where how employees and folks in Reltio are impacted by it, like I said, in marketing, they need a lot of data to be able to do some certain kind of work or certain kind of, they want to build things like that. The ability to have this data centralized now gives them the ability to access it faster than they've ever been able to access it and go to a single source to pull that data out without having to work with 3 or 4 different stakeholders asking them what bits and pieces of data they have and how do they then get that data from them and how do they then join it and connect it, which is a full-time job in itself to get that access. Nothing can go to one person, one team, and get all the data that they need.
So I feel like there's people like to consume data in different ways. So I'll give you an example. You mentioned, hey, now they can go into Salesforce, pull these reports that kind of show different aspects of the customer within that is feeding Reltio. But then there's other people like look at Tableau. There's some people that like to look at different reporting type tools. Do you think, because people work in different ways, trying to get people to just say, hey, go to this one thing and do it, it's just not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. It could, but do you know what I'm saying? So do you provide those kind of tools that can connect directly to Reltio and Reltio to see what they're wanting to see? Does that make sense? Or
it doesn't make sense. To that point, it goes into the areas of the rest of the Reltio and Reltio enterprise architecture, and that is the enterprise data warehouse and also the business intelligence and analytics platform side of things. Now, what we do with all of the data in Reltio is once we unify it from the various systems, we extract a lot of that back down into actually all of it. But I don't mean why I say a lot of that, all of it. We extract all down into our enterprise data warehouse, which is built on GDQ.
Okay.
We host all that data there and we transform it. We do some work on that data to flatten it out and make it very usable and consumable in the data warehouse. But from there, we capture tables and we have all the data available to be connected to various visualization platforms. Now, Tableau is one of them. Looker is another one. Looker Studio is another one that's sitting around here. So all these visualization platforms and analytics platforms now have access to that data from Reltio in the data warehouse. That's coming unified through Reltio and now available in the data warehouse. So that's how the various teams are able to build dashboards or ask for dashboards that they want, connect the data that they want. That's how it's happening. It's all happening out of the enterprise data warehouse and the business intelligence platforms. But the unifying of the data is taking place in Reltio.
Got it. So intriguing. I'm learning a ton just talking to you and just thinking of the questions, because I'm thinking about how can I access this more often about our customers and things like that, because it's going to be very important. How do you, let's see here. So, all right, there's a question here that I have to ask, but just because if it wasn't on every single podcast we ask this, but around AI. So can you share some early successes or insights gained from like exploring AI and ML capabilities across your connected data platforms? Is there any thoughts around that?
Yeah, absolutely. ML is the buzzword that everybody wants to use. Everybody wants to be connected with, and in some way or the other, every bit of work that they're doing with data ultimately relates to that. They want to accomplish something, leverage the efficiencies and the features and the capabilities of AI and ML that's available now. But one of the things that people struggle with is having good, clean data for AI and ML type work.
Yeah.
What are people doing? That is, if you don't have good data, AI and ML is only going to be as good as the best data that you have. And if you don't have good data, the results you get from that are not going to be something you can either trust. It's going to be either biased, or it's going to have a lot of anomalies in it that ultimately is useless to you at the end of the day, even though you've invested in that technology. The way we're starting to look at this is because we have Reltio, we have this connected data. We have data that everybody agrees upon. We believe that the experiments we're doing with AI and ML in enterprise architecture space will actually yield the kind of results with good, clean results that are usable by the organization. So I'll give you an example of what we're doing. One of the things that we're experimenting with right now, and we're still in the middle of doing this experimentation, is we're gathering ticket data. We're gathering ticket data from Zendesk, and we're pulling ticket data, the comments from tickets and comments from various customers that they've left in tickets. And we're looking at that data, and then we are processing it with using AI ML and trying to understand customer sentiment. Okay.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Sentiment across these tickets to see if there's a connection between the customer sentiment and what the ultimate result was in terms of them being a continued renewed customer or a churn customer. Okay. So we're trying to draw the connection here between customer sentiment from various tickets that they've submitted over a period of time and what their posture is in terms of their renewal status or their continued customer or the churned customer from the past, etc. So we're trying to draw some correlation here. So that ultimately what we want to be able to do is run that same analysis on current customers and know where there may be areas of risk.
Yeah.
See the indicator, an index that comes out that says, hey, you need to focus on this customer. They seem to be having some kind of a challenge with support or some kind of other issue with the product or something like that. Now we need to maybe give them some extra help and get them past a certain hurdle. That's how we're starting to experiment with AI and ML. We're starting to do it with sentiment analysis. We're starting to do predictive analysis. It's a slow journey because you're cleaning up your data and you're processing this, but it is a journey and we're on it.
I feel like you can also do the other piece around, okay, when is somebody going to turn or when do we need to go after them? But more around, hey, when will a customer be able to expand with Reltio from a product standpoint? But those are some things that it seems like a huge opportunity that Reltio will be able to help in the future with.
Yeah, we want to start with small, simple examples, simple experiments and work our way out. Proving this out and getting this kind of a use case proved out, I think would be a great step into us looking at the other side of it now in terms of sell and extension.
So what have you learned from deploying and supporting Reltio's platform? So Reltio on Reltio.
What have I learned?
Yeah, what have you learned like throughout? And is there anything that you can that we can apply to our customers outside of?
Yeah, I was going to tell you, I've learned that you can take 25 years of experience, throw it out the door, and it all feels fresh. It all feels, like ever. And what I've learned is that over the years, we've not just solved problems, we've also compounded and created more problems in the IT world, in the world of data. We've solved a lot of issues, great, but we've created so many more other issues. So what I'm learning is that if it's at this scale at Reltio, and we're all and there's some challenges that we need to overcome, and it takes some time to do this, and a lot of communication, a lot of stakeholder buy-in, a lot of negotiations and everything to get to the point where you're solving these problems. I can only imagine what our customers are facing. And what I've learned is if they are trying to navigate those waters without NDM or without any kind of trusted data that they have, it just makes it that much harder. I think it's exponentially compounded the complexity. So my first lesson learned from this is over the 25 years of doing enterprise architecture and all of that, there's sometimes I've worked with companies that have had MDM. Sometimes I've worked with companies that didn't have MDM. They just had data that they believed they unified it in the enterprise data warehouse in a certain way, and they figured out what they trusted and what they did. I'm noticing that the companies that I've worked with that had MDM, I did have a better experience with them, and I'm noticing it here too. It's a better experience in terms of building out that data value and the data architecture and being able to get to those valuable business outcomes. I can see how if you didn't have that, this would be a monumental trouble. So that's one of the lessons I've learned.
Yeah, and I think that's really good. And so what are the kind of the future of what you want to do in the future? So what are some ambitions for expanding the use of Reltio? Any kind of thinking around that for the next 6, 8, 12 months?
Yeah, we have a huge roadmap. We have a massive roadmap that we built out. It's an 18-month roadmap. We're about 7 months into it now, 8 months into the roadmap. We got a long way to go. A lot of it has been around getting data into the platform, unifying the data and turning it and cleaning it up and getting it ready to deliver value. The rest of this roadmap really looks like wildfire as people start realizing the value of this and start coming to this area of the business that asking for more. They just want more and more. In some ways, it's all about delivering business value. It's all about getting this out there in people's hands so they can use it and get insights from it and start affect customer experience. And so now we're just at the point of realizing value from it. So we're just building that whole value chain.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to diving even more in myself. Is there questions I should ask that I might have missed that you're willing to or dying to talk about?
Oh, there's a lot, Chris. Every question could be a podcast and
I agree.
We can probably go on, but I think we've covered so much ground in terms of what Reltio is doing with Reltio on Reltio internally. And I think what we can do is just continue this conversation, and we can just peel apart different layers of this as we go forward. And hopefully the folks that are out there that are either using Reltio, not using Reltio, thinking about using Reltio, or just even early stages of even thinking about MDM, I hope they get an understanding of how this can really benefit them in their journey, maturing their architectures.
Abhi, thank you so much for coming on. And thank you for our audience for tuning in. Before I go, we do have a conference coming up. It's called DataDriven 2024. It's a modern data management conference. It's October 7th through 9th in Orlando, Florida. You could go to reltio.com/datadriven and sign up there. So again, thank you everyone for coming and listening to the podcast. Abhi, thanks again for your insights on Reltio and Reltio. Until then, don't forget to rate and review us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Abhi.
Thanks for